Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom. We're starting actually right today. And this happens to be the Lionsgate portal 8824. And I'm going to go all the way through Sunday, the 18th, which leads us to a full moon in Aquarius. But I'll do another video next week to talk about that full moon. In the meantime, hi, welcome. And there's a few little things happening in my world. I'm going to talk about this Lionsgate portal for a second because the energies are really intense right now. And I know a lot of people are feeling it and trying to understand what's happening. And I realize too that this video will probably get released after the fact, but hopefully there'll be some pins on the map. Reminders to ground, reminders also to be really patient. Now, once these intense energies and downloads, and maybe there's a feeling of ascension sickness. My daughter right now is dealing with a cold. That often can show up in a physical way where we're manifesting something on a physical basis because of the intensity of these energies. And it takes time for our physical body sometimes to catch up with the spiritual, mental, emotional body as it's getting its downloads and things like that. So be aware. For me right now, what I'm finding fascinating, this is also where I've been tracking the moon, and I picked up a moon journal again this year. I haven't done it in a while. And as I track the moon patterns, right now the moon is sitting right on top of my Pluto. And I'm noticing it's bringing up a lot of shadow for me, a lot of old stories, a lot of things that are, that I'm basically feeling like I have to face. It's like take off the rose-colored glasses, see things for what they are, and identify them, and keep reminding myself I still have a choice here, right? And so that's what we have to keep looking at is, number one, who told me that story? Number two, is this really true? And number three, is this something that I choose to stay in? Is this something I choose to face? Is it something I choose to work with? And so those are the kind of things that we continue to work with and try and unbind from. So let's just talk about the card of the week here, okay? As you know, I like using my Celtic tarot deck that I've had for over 25 years and I absolutely love it. It's a good friend to me. And yeah, so let's see what is being asked and called for us here today. Okay. You can see that. That in the Celtic deck is the underworld, but in the Rider-Waite, it would be the devil. Fascinating. Maybe I'm channeling that because I'm doing my own shadow work. But the devil card does represent the shadow or the darker side of negative forces that have been maybe holding us back from being the best version of ourselves. These thought patterns, these habits, dependencies, any sort of behaviors or relationships. All of that is associated with the devil card. And if we feel like we've been trapped between the short-term pleasure that we get and long-term pain we've experienced, that what we're working with the devil card is remembering that we're choosing this instant gratification at the expense of our long-term well-being. And so stay with it. The invitation with this energy is to stay in that shadow work and realize that you can't have shadow without light. So there is light here as well. And then how does it serve? Don't push it away. How does the shadow work serve? And let's just say for me right now, with what I'm working with, is how is this awareness or this story that I'm telling myself, this thing that I'm dealing with, how is it serving me? And right now, what has been revealed is that it allows me to stay open instead of collapsing the field and being stuck and fixed and rigid. And so that's what's working me. So we'll see what the devil card, the shadow work, does for you as well. Now, the other thing about the shadow card, and this is the devil card, excuse me, it's a positive thing, is that it can also show really powerful attachments between two people. People like a mom and a newborn, a new romance that's still in the honeymoon phase. The one thing we don't want to do is, if there is that strong attachment, this is the shadow side, that it can turn into codependency. And so, especially during this Lionsgate portal, and we're leading to this full moon over the next 10 days, we're going to be working with where do we need to let go of these things that have kept us stuck, that maybe have been codependent, that haven't, they even have been toxic. Remember, because full moon's about releasing, and this next full moon's in Aquarius. So it's very unpredictable, very wild and woolly. It can, anything goes, One other thing about this devil card, it also is like giving you permission to explore that shadow side or that wild side, right? So if there's some deep, dark fantasies, it's very much associated with Pluto as well. When you think about the Pluto energy, where you kind of go into the depths and you have this secret fantasy or secret wish, maybe there's a fetish or something that you're into, and you need to be safe to explore it. And so maybe this is giving you permission to be able to set boundaries, find that safety, make sure that you have a safe place to go and to explore this with. And it's time to finally open that up, right? So maybe there's something like that. Okay. Now, I've been mentioning the Lionsgate portal, and it is more of an astrological event that happens on the 8th of August every year. And it's when the Earth, the Sun, and the dog star Sirius, our brightest star in the sky, all line up. And it was named the Lionsgate because it's in the sign of Leo when this happens, right? Leo's the lion. And so, like I say, there's a lot of heightened energy, a lot of spiritual potential that happens here. And it's really great if you're setting intentions or focusing on personal goals. This is a great time to do that, and then just see what shows up as well. We're also in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, right? And on the 14th, we've got Mars and Jupiter canoodling, as I like to say, are conjunct in Gemini and squaring off with Saturn and Pisces. So here we are with Mercury retrograde. We're coming on the heels of a Lionsgate portal of intense energy. And then you've got Mars, our planet of action, assertion, aggression, desire, lining up right next to Jupiter, which can expand that energy, which can be great. But then you've got this square, this tension happening with Saturn. So I'll talk about that in a second, but I want to share a couple of Mercury retrograde stories, and I'm sure you can relate, or maybe you have heard or know of someone who's dealt with this. But it seems as though transportation, cars in particular, are huge right now. A friend of mine sorry, I'm losing my words. I'll blame Mercury retrograde because that is part of it too. Because remember, Mercury retrograde does cause some confusion, miscommunication. It may be more difficult to get some technology to work or to communicate what we're really asking or having a conversation, unless it's from the past, right? So a lot of issues from our past can be revisited. It's great for finishing up projects. So what I was going to say with the story is that a friend of mine, she said that two people that she works with were in car accidents over the last couple of days. And then there was also a coworker whose son was scammed almost. I mean, didn't get the money, but almost scammed from an AI generated scam, if you can believe that. And he supposedly had to go and get money from Coinstar instead of a bail bondsman to get the money. So this person was in an accident and arrested because there was a woman who was injured. And in order to get the money, he was supposed to go to Coinstar instead of the bail bondsman, found out that that whole thing was a scam. So anyways, be careful out there, you guys. I think that's another thing, because like I say, not everything's as it appears to be. The other thing I've experienced personally is some of my emails aren't going through. I'm having to resend. I'm not getting some emails that people say they've sent. Another thing that has shown up is that I have sent an email to the wrong person. So yeah, there's that. It's important to keep our sense of humor. Thank you, Joan, for posting the memes about how to stay stable during the Mercury retrograde. So I had to keep my sense of humor. I had to stay open, apologize, clarify, that sort of thing. I will say that certain topics, like for me personally, I received an email from my landlord who offered a different location, a different place, because she was talking about selling my place. And she did reassure me that she wasn't going to force me out or anything. Thank goodness, because I love my little place. But this came up 2 years ago. And so it's just funny that it's coming back during another Mercury retrograde, because when she first brought it up to me 2 years ago, it was during a Mercury retrograde. So those are some examples. Some of you have also reported some people from your past exes. Remember, there's a reason there's an X in front of their name. You may just need to wrap some things up and put it to bed finally, I mentioned Mars and Jupiter canoodling or conjunct, meaning they're standing right next to each other. And that happens exact on Wednesday, the 14th. So that could give us a real surge of energy, a boost to get some things done. And that's helpful even during a Mercury retrograde, because things tend to slow down during a retrograde and that sort of thing. Now, with this square to Saturn, there could be a restriction, though, or it could be a block. So we'll have the energy or the surge of energy to get some things done. But when we're faced with the obstacles, we need to pause for a second and really open ourselves up to all kinds of possibilities that could present other solutions. We may also get really inspired to get what we want regardless of these obstacles, which is great unless we do what Mars often does, which is get impulsive, and Jupiter energizing that and expanding that. We could say or do some things that are detrimental long term, could cause some harm, especially within the sign of Gemini. We could get caught up in some gossip and say some things that we really don't mean, and we could really harm important relationships. So be careful of that. Be careful not to take on more than you can handle. We may be the yes person this week. But we also can find really big energy for brainstorming and collaborating. Also finding some inspiration if you've been looking for new sources of income, maybe a boost in your finances. There's also an emphasis here that if you are looking for a relationship and new ways to connect and communicate, this is a time that could happen. Keep in mind Mercury retrograde. If you meet somebody new, it may not everything that they share with you could either be true or you're not getting all the pieces. And so take your time. If you're in a bonded relationship, this could be times where you two kind of overpromise and underdeliver with each other. So be careful what you're promising to one another. Now, also during this time, Mercury will make its retrograde back into Leo. So we're going to be revisiting topics from late July. But that's good because we have a chance to resolve some issues. For example, my partner's son needs a new car and it blew up, so to speak. There's a lot of repairs that needed done. And that started, believe it or not, right when Mercury went into shadow, right in the middle of July 16th. And so now the car is fixed and they're looking to sell it for something more reliable and something a little bit better. So I have a feeling that this week into the next, that's most likely what will end up happening. And then I mentioned about Sunday, the 18th, going that far because we've got the Sun and Mercury conjunct, canoodling, and that marks the halfway point of this Mercury retrograde, which I know many of us are going, oh, thank God, right? So again, don't push the river. And when things get frustrating, pause for a second and just notice that maybe you're rushing through something, you're trying to force something that isn't there. But this halfway point says, okay, now I have a chance to revisit some things over the last couple of weeks and do them over. We get a do-over again around this time, which is nice. And also sort of that light at the end of the tunnel. And then following this Sun Mercury cazimi, we're going to have that full moon in Aquarius. And I would say that all the days leading up to that full moon, anything goes. Because remember, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the great severer, the great awakener, because it brings circumstances and conversations and people in our lives that can shake us out of the status quo, shake us out of our comfort zone, and we can't really prepare for it. I mean, you can prepare by practicing, but you don't know how you're going to meet something until it actually happens. So keep that in mind. I'll share one other thing. If you're still listening and watching, thank you so much. And that's what's happening in my little world so that we can continue to connect and relate. There is a event here in Reno, Nevada called Hot August Nights, and I'm very excited to be going and watching the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. That'll be fun. That happens on tomorrow night. And there's the cool thing about Hot August Nights is that there's all kinds of classic cars and all kinds of entertainment, and they come from all over the country, really. This is a huge event for Reno, and I'm just excited to be a part of it and to be in this great state and city. I was just thinking earlier today when I was taking my grand dog Rosie for a little walk, and there's mountains everywhere. My view is 360 degrees of mountains, and we went to this one little place on the Truckee River that the mountain is smack right there. And I was reminded of this saying that says, I look my eyes to the hills where my help comes. And I'm just like, yeah, it's a nice reminder that if I look up and I ask, and this is a good reminder, ask your ancestors, ask your angels, demand their help, demand that they are working with you. That doesn't mean we're forcing anything. It doesn't mean that if you don't get it immediately, remember that instant gratification that the devil card represents. If we're not getting it immediately, it doesn't mean it won't happen. We got to let go of the timing. But to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to trust in this. I'm going to go and enjoy this process, but I'm asking. And remember, ask and you will receive, knock and the door will open, seek and you will find. Okay, you guys, I hope that helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com. I'm over at 12radio.com as well on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific if you can listen live. And if not, come listen to an archive or a replay. And I so appreciate your love and support. All right, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you guys next week with another video for that full moon in Aquarius. Okay, take care.